Welcome to the South Florida M&A Advisors Podcast, your trusted M&A team. Here's your host, Russell Cohen.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to another installment of the South Florida M&A Advisors Podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeremy Wolf, joined by none other than your host, Russell Cohen. Russell, always a pleasure, my brother.
Great to see you, Jeremy. It's been a while, but we're back, and 26 a great year. Yep.
And we are better than before. And by the way, congratulations. Recent sale of a 8-figure deal. Don't run across those every day. So
thank you.
There.
No doubt. You're right. You don't come across those too often.
So let's start at the top, right? Southwest Plumbing just sold for $14 million. What would you say immediately stood out about this business?
You know, they were basically the leader in Southern Florida and Southwest Florida for commercial new construction projects. Great team, 3 owners, consisting of the father as the leader, the son, and then a long-term friend who are partners. And the father was heading into retirement in the next couple of years, and the seller wanted his son, who didn't want complete responsibility. He wanted the ability to grow to the next level, but also have someone in his place or replacement so they can grow and build better infrastructure and be a sounding board. So they decided to go the route of putting the business for sale and seeking out a private equity investment.
No. So when you first dug into this deal, is this something when they came to you, did they have a pretty clear picture of the valuation of the company, or is this something that, when you first looked under the hood, what kind of indicated that this could be north of or this could be in the 8-figure range?
Well, when we started taking a look at the financials, which were extremely clean, it showed an extremely great EBITDA, which is another term for earnings, basically. And we knew that we would be able to get a certain multiple of earnings, basically, because in the construction world, nothing's residual except the contracts, when you complete each project. So we kind of had a limit where we could probably get on the business, where comparably, if you had a guaranteed reoccurring revenue, you probably the owner would have gotten a lot higher multiple. But the multiple was fine. They were extremely happy with it. And, it was a step for taking some liquidity out of the company and, taking it off their balance sheet, the corporate balance sheet, and moving it into their personal balance sheet. So that was a very important first step for the main owner of the business.
Now, you mentioned construction. Is it typical that these multiples are similar per type of industry that you're working in, or does it vary just depending on the business?
So in this particular, with construction, which is, you're going to look at roofers, plumbing, HVAC, all different types of trades. We got the owner about a 4x multiple. And the reason why they didn't get higher is because they're dealing with new commercial construction, which, if the economy takes the wrong turn and you go into a 2008 style recession, there's a bigger risk that those type of projects might slow down. Comparably, if you're a regular plumber servicing residential or commercial contracts, that if it's going to break, it's irrelevant to the economy. It breaks and you got to fix it. So, anything that's dealing with large projects, the multiples will not get crazy.
Yeah, that makes sense, because the residential, you have more of an existing client base, recurring business, as opposed to these big new projects that are usually one-offs for the most part.
Right. Well, it's really with the general contractor who's hiring the plumbing firm. So okay. There's a residual effect of it, but like I said, it's larger projects take longer. The projects take longer to start, and then it does have a decent, could be 3 months, could be a year to finish the project, depending how big it is. So the bandwidth of the company, if you take on too many projects, then you might have a hard time staffing it, and timing of the projects and everything.
Yeah, right on. A lot of moving parts for sure. Obviously, every deal is different, and there's different things that drive the value of a business. In this particular deal, what were some of the biggest drivers of the value? I'm sure that if I had to guess, AI probably played a big factor in the driving the value.
Well, we're in the private equity world, mergers and acquisitions. The buyers they understand that it's a changing world. In the next 3 to 5 years, AI is going to eliminate a lot of white collar jobs. So in the past few years, these private equity groups have been moving towards the trades, and it's a safer, believe it or not, it is a safer investment for them, because these trades are going to be around no matter what. So the manual side of the business, 10 years ago they wouldn't touch this type of business, and now they are engaging, and now they want all different types of contracting type businesses. So that's one of the driving reasons. In this case, this private equity group, this was their first entry into the plumbing, and they had a high aspirations to buy 25 companies. Now it's very difficult to find 25 companies to buy in 5 years, but this was the first one, so they had to get this one done in order to get to 2, 3, and 4. If you don't buy number one, you don't launch. So it was vital. It was vital for them to see this deal through, because it was launching their private equity group.
The first of many, my friend. Right. Yes,
no doubt.
Yeah, no, I've definitely heard more and more about the trades having some kind of added cushion when it comes to the implementation of AI, because AI is taking a lot of the technical jobs, but we're not quite at a level yet where it could kind of take in these technical hands-on type jobs like plumbing in these industries. So there's an added layer of protection in that industry, at least I've heard.
Yeah, I mean, AI is going to help them become more efficient in many different angles of the business. It won't take over the business, because AI can't dig a hole, and it can't manually do the work that they do. So I'm going to ride that wave. I'm going to try to ride it.
The robots are coming, Russell. Just wait. quicker.
I don't know if I'll be alive to see it all.
So we talk a lot about the owner being tied up in the operations of businesses, especially on the smaller scale deals. I'd imagine that in a deal of this size and caliber, a lot of the value stemmed from having placed systems, right? Really robust systems that have helped the business scale, versus the owner being involved himself. Was that the case in this deal, or was the owner pretty active in the company? I know you said it was a family type operation. Talk a little bit about the systems that they built over time.
Yeah. So, they had a great administrative staff, very lean and mean. One of the owners ran the West Coast division, and then one of the owners ran the East Coast division. And two out of the 3 owners are staying on, one permanently, and the other one for a couple of years. And the third owner was the controller of the company. And that job immediately gets replaced upon the completion of the acquisition. The owner that's retiring, it was the controller. He'll stay on for a few months, but typically the private equity group will bring in their own people and start controlling the books. So they had their supervisors, for each division on the West and East Coast, and then they had the laborers, the plumbers, who are very talented to do what they do, and those are the foot soldiers out in the field. So yeah, there's different levels of management and layers, but the toughest part of their job is labor, to get the right type of people that can do that type of work. And that is the problem in the construction industry right now, is that a lot of young people are not trying to get into the trades, and they should.
It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Right? Because what we just talked about in terms of job security and and I hear it all the time in the trades, it's very difficult to find good help. It seems like there's a big opportunity there in that industry if people would just get back into the trades more frequently. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, there's going to be a pivot in the American society, realizing you're growing up, and at least in certain communities, you go out there and you get college educated, you go into finance or you go into some type of accounting or legal or corporate management, but there's going to be probably massive layoffs coming in the future. Maybe because of the economy and AI and everything like that. So people are going to have to, the next generation up is going to have to learn how to pivot and not follow the footsteps of mom and dad and do something that maybe with their hands,
Yeah, back to the drawing board, literally.
It's going to be a necessary pivot, no doubt.
So is this, were they thinking about selling this for a while, or is this like, how long was this in the making? I know, just trying to get an idea of how prepared they were before the idea of selling was even on the table.
So 10 years prior, seller had an issue with a former employee, which allowed him to be better prepared for that day, basically. Seller took over the books. And since when the seller took over the books, extremely clean books, incredible. I was very happy that one of the rare occasions where I can see when I went on the profit and loss statement, everything just fell right to the bottom line, because the owner's salary, we do not, when you're calculating based on EBITDA, you don't add back the owner's salary because they're going to stay on and they're going to keep their salary. So based on pure profits, that's how clean the books were. And that's only because they had an issue many, many years ago with a bad employee. So this was an extremely, clean set of books. It wasn't audited, it wasn't reviewed, more, compiled financial statements with a CPA providing the review, the P&Ls. But it was extremely clean. So we were very fortunate on that, and a very mature, focused, incredible business owner. All three business owners were incredibly smart. I tried to bring in teams of advisors to help throughout the deal, and the owner was very capable, and he was very knowledgeable. So it was just myself, the attorney, the seller's CPA was involved, and plus the other two owners. So we were able to get to the finish line.
I love how you said that it was because of that issue they had many years earlier that taught them the lesson, that got them to the place that they were. The older I get, Russell, the more I look at challenges and difficulties and things that at the time might seem like bad situations as more teachers, right? They're trying to show us something, and oftentimes we're able to benefit from those experiences.
Yeah, it's a hard lesson to learn. I see it quite a bit in these smaller construction companies as people get too much access and too much control of internal operations, and they're really just sometimes bad people. And then the business owners learn from it, and they become a better company, and it allows them to be where they're at today and be able to sell for those type of numbers.
Indeed. So what did buyers in this deal, what did they focus on, or what was some of the focus that they had that would, I guess, surprise an average business owner?
So in the deal, we had January of 24, we went under an LOI, and we thought it was going to be a really quick 5 months closing. And it ended up being where the seller had many jobs that were supposed to start, and they didn't. So all of a sudden, his 25 numbers were getting, like very minimal revenue, and that became it became a situation where the private equity group could have canceled the deal right there, and we would have had to wait for not even, because 25 was going to end up being a lower year from the year prior because the jobs didn't start. So that means we would have to wait the entire 26 to come through to get the flow of the work and then put it on the market in 27. So what ended up happening was, because the sales were non-existent for first 6 months, the private equity group waited until November until the jobs were all kicking in full gear, so they can see the consistency of the revenue coming in. So what ended up being, could have been a quick 4 or 5 month deal, turned into an 11-month, unknown if we were going to close, because at any moment the private equity group could have withdrew from the deal, because the trailing 12 months of the business was declining really fast. So we were very fortunate that it was their first entry. They had the launch. They needed the company. They renegotiated. We kept the top line the same, but it ended up being where there was seller financing, there was earnouts, there was rollover equity with a substantial down payment. So the deal structure changed along the way, and it was just a matter of when would these jobs start consistently, so the revenue would stay consistent. So the private equity group waited until the close on November to make that deal happen. So that's the risk when you're dealing with projects. If the projects don't start on time, they get delayed, and you're dealing with big numbers, then that all of a sudden you might have no revenue in the business. So that was the challenge in this particular situation, where the deal could have crashed 50 times over, but the private equity group hung on because they knew, the company did like $20 million a year before, and they were just, the flow of the sales was not coming in 25.
Yeah, as I always say, so many moving parts, and that's the thing I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize with these larger deal structures, is that the sales cycle often takes considerably longer, and there's 1,001 different things that can completely blow up the deal and go off the rails. But to bring it home and get it through, my hat's off to you, sir.
Thank you. We live another day, and we go on to the next opportunity, right?
Next opportunity, for sure. I want to circle back over to the financials. You mentioned earlier that because they had that issue with the former employee, it kind of woke them up and they started structuring their books properly. I know there's a lot of business owners out there that would love to get to the point of north of 8-figure or in the 8-figure territory. But again, if you don't have clean financials, it could be very, very difficult to do that. Obviously, that speaks to how the business is structured and the scales. From the deals that you see, how important do clean financials kind of factor into these larger deals? I'd imagine that the larger the business gets, hopefully the cleaner the financials are, or is that not always the case?
All these businesses start out as like a mom and pop business. Mm-hmm. And as you grow up and you start getting more mature and your sales grow, you have to make a decision. Are you going to spend money on your accounting department? And the ones that spend money on their accounting department will have great books and records, because they're reinvesting. Especially if you're a business owner, if at that size company, if you're not looking at P&L and balance sheets, then how do you go? You're missing very important information that leads your company. Okay, so you got to have that as a CEO of a company to understand your financials. So the companies that don't invest and they're still treating their $10 to $15 million revenue company as a mom and pop business, well, those are the type of businesses where they're living through the business, buying stuff through the cost of goods, and sure, we can find a way to add it back. But when we get these larger accounting firms to come in and do the quality of earnings, you're running a bigger risk of a renegotiation and losing some value if the books and records aren't timely and done appropriately, revenue recognition, because the private equity groups are based on GAAP accounting and small businesses aren't. So you got to bring your books as close to GAAP accounting as possible without being GAAP accounting, and it has to be the ability of these. It's like an audit, but not an audit. But they're going to go through diligence on many different topics on your business. So it's not just about the books. It's about the insurances. It could be about environmental. It could be about human resources. Every topic, a lot of stones are unturned when you're buying these companies. Where in a smaller business, they're just looking at the financials And then on these M&A transactions, it is everything. Even they even do background checks on the owner. So if you have a checkered past, it's going to come out and it could kill your deal right there. So everything has to be in place. And most important in these deals is disclose upfront, go ugly early. Don't drag these private equity groups to where they find all the dirt, because that's where the renegotiation or the cancellation will happen. So in our world, you want to go ugly early.
Yeah, makes sense to be forthcoming and not keep skeletons in the closet. It's all going to come out anyway on a deal like this.
Yeah, it comes out.
Just bring it out in the front. Yeah, so we alluded to it earlier, talking a little bit about AI and the state of the world right now. What role did timing and market conditions beyond that play in this particular deal?
This particular circumstance, it was more of AI did not play a role in this, but we know that private equity groups are targeting these contractors because it's a manual type business, and AI won't do it. This was just a timing of that exit where an owner was in the mid 60s and wanted to, working all his life, and he wanted to put his son in a better position because the son didn't want to take over 100% of the business, and he enjoyed what he was doing. He just, as the father exits, he just wanted the son to be in a better position and have the like a partner, because that's really what a private equity group is. A majority partner basically is what a private equity group is, and go to the next level. So it was really planning, and we brought many majority cash offers to the table along the way in the first round, and they picked a private equity group that really worked well for the new owners, and which took on rollover equity, it took on earnouts, it took on a lot of different creative financing because the seller really hit it off with the private equity group. And he had some tough decisions. Do I take out a 90% cash out position, which I thought he was going to do, compared to maybe like 70% down? And they, I think the son really liked this private equity group that felt they could work together. So kind of a completely opposite thought what I thought they were going to pick, which is fine. It's their decision. They have to work with them after our job is done. So pick the private equity group that works for you, with the right culture.
Yeah, 100%. Not always about the dollars and cents, especially if you're staying on long term, right? There's a level of comfort that you want to achieve as you structure these things. So this business was started how long ago?
Oh, I think it was started in the I think it was in the 80s.
Okay, so
because it's been a few months. So, but yeah, no doubt it's been around quite a while, and family run, of course, and the leader in their space.
If they had tried to go to market and sell the business, say 5 years earlier, how different do you feel the outcome would have been back then?
I didn't look at the numbers back to 2020. That was like COVID years. I don't believe they were sitting at the level of sales that they were. I would assume they were lower. But I think the timing was right. Sales were great. They were over 20 million. Great EBITDA, finished the year great. And it's about an owner who wants to be on the other side of ownership. They see the light at the end of the tunnel, and they need to spend a couple, maybe a year or two with the private equity group to transition, but they don't want to be in the chair 5 years out, let's say 3 years out, 2 years out. That's when it's time. And the best type of owners who are in their 60s, they built up this incredible asset on their personal balance sheet, and it's not really liquid. So that's where we come in. We take an illiquid asset and make it some money for they can invest. So that was very, very important. And just timing in someone's life to be who wants to see the conclusion of a working career, basically.
For someone out there that's listening, Russell, that owns a service business, right? And they think, well, that'll never be me. What are they missing here? Speak to that business owner out there that wants to get to that point and is just kind of stuck.
Well, there's a few ways to get out of business. You spend your entire life building a business. You can close it down, get no money for it. You could sell it to an employee, and most of your employees don't have the money to buy your business. So now you're becoming the bank to the seller financing majority of your company to an employee, which is nice if that's what you want to do, and a lot of people do that. You can just turn it over to a family member and no money down, and you can pull a salary out for the next 15, 20 years and right into the sunset. And then the last option is to hire an advisor like myself and take the liquidity out of the company. And if you stick around for a couple of years, and roll over some equity, especially in the acquisition world, these private equity groups will turn around and flip the whole package 7 years later at a higher multiple. And they call it the second bite of the apple, where you get a good chunk of money up front, and when you sell your first time, and then if everything goes well over those 7 years, they'll sell all the companies together, and then there might be a bigger payout down the road. So that's why so many owners take the rollover equity. But there's only a couple ways to get out of business. So eventually you'll be faced. You don't want to be 70 plus trying to sell your business, because most of the time that's when the declining trends kick in, where you lost the interest in the business, and you end up being the legend in your own business, and that's what's very tough to sell, is the legend.
Yep. Yeah. So don't wait, right? If you're listening to this, one takeaway, if you're running a business out there, start thinking about this stuff now. Don't wait until the end. Don't wait until it's too late. Start putting systems in place. Make that investment into your business, like Russell talked about with the accounting. Again, putting operating systems, employment, all these things. They are not expenses for your business. They are an investment in that future value of your business.
The minute you go into business, you should be preparing your exit. If you think
you're doing it right
all the way through, then you'll maximize the value of your business. So that's important. There will be an exit one day, and it comes up quicker than you think. And if you take the attitude of one day I'm going to exit, every move I make should have in the back of your mind is that it doesn't make sense for the exit. Yep,
indeed. All right, well, let's leave it at that. Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you found this content useful, don't forget to like, subscribe, the drill, all that fun stuff. Let us know if we missed anything. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments. We always like to hear your feedback. Until next time, everyone take care, and we will catch you on the next episode of the South Florida M&A Advisors Podcast. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the South Florida M&A Advisors Podcast. For more information, visit southfloridama.com or contact 954-646-7651.